It's Parm King, and I'm really excited to bring to you another guide to Curse of Strahd. This time, it's the Stockyard in the village of Vallaki, and I'm really excited about this one. It took me a little bit longer to put together because I incorporated an entire mini game, a murder mystery game, and an entire combat encounter that ties into Rictavio's Wagon and the special event Rules as Written Tyger. So I'm really excited to show this one to you. Before we get started, a special shout out again to DM Andy, who's gracious enough to allow us to include his gorgeous battle map, not only in this video and PDF guide, but into our Foundry adventure modules. That's right, everything you see here is on Foundry. All the maps, lighting, additional assets, items, roll tables, including the music you can hear in the background, which is the Stockyard sound, is available in a module which you can go ahead and download and install right into Foundry and go ahead and add this to your campaign. Now, a special huge thank you to my Patreon members. I'm really overwhelmed and humbled by it. I'm having so many great comments and thoughts, suggestions, and ideas. In fact, a couple Patreon members join me as I stream live as I'm working on this content. And, in a collaborative effort, they offer me some ideas, some great ideas and suggestions that I've incorporated into this. So it's not just a Patreon relationship. It's really been, in some instances, a collaborative relationship. So I'm just hugely thankful for your support to all my Patreon members. Thank you so much. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon member for the PDF guide or for the Foundry Adventure modules, there's a link down below to my Patreon's patreon.com/ParmKing. Thank you again so much. So let's jump into this one. I'm really excited about this. So let's first talk about this gorgeous battle map, because it's kind of important to understand there's really three locations going on here. DM Andy put together, and he and I were sharing some ideas on this as he was putting it together, and he's just done an amazing job on this. But it's important as a DM that we understand the map so we can explain a couple of things that are going on, because it's going to be instrumental into the encounters and the events that we have going on here. So the first area is we have this L-shaped area, and this is actually the Stockyard. This is a walled in with a kind of a high fence, wooden fence, Stockyard with some gates to the north, the gates to the southwest, and gates to the east with a little door here at the bottom. I like to think of this Stockyard as like one of those self-storage areas, right? You can go ahead and rent out a building with a lock on it, or there's some stables in here, or just kind of an open yard to leave your wagon or your horses located at. So this is the actual Stockyard. And you'll see there's two stables here, one here kind of in the northwest and one in the southeast. We also have some separate buildings in here, and these are like self-contained storage units that are rented either by villagers of Vallaki or maybe some stone owners of Vallaki. There's also a general yard. And you can see in the middle here, I have Rictavio's Wagon. It's actually an asset, again, a gorgeous asset made by DM Andy that we can move around. Now, the next location on here is the warehouse, and this is different than the Stockyard. This is a warehouse that's sitting up on a hill up here. You can see that. And the way this works is the wagons go underneath the building. See, it sits on a hill and it sits over on some stilts over a hill, and the wagons go underneath. There's a crane that can pull stuff up out of the wagons, put it in the warehouse. And in the back of the warehouse, to the north of it, are these two huge swinging doors, so you can load stuff up into the warehouse as well. Now, the way I view the warehouse, or the way I like to describe it to the players, is this is the central shipping, trading depot for all of Barovia. So any goods, it could be leather goods, it could be armor goods, it could be wine from the Wizards of Wine, any type of goods that you need to ship through Barovia, either to the village of Barovia or to Kresk, or wine coming up from the Wizards of Wine, goes through this location. It can be repackaged, shipped. It also can be issued out to the local stores here in Vallaki. So this is a hub of activity and has a lot of valuable items in it. Think of this as, maybe the Barovia Amazon shipping center or something like that. Just joking. But I can imagine during better times in Barovia, this was probably a big hub of activity, and things have been getting kind of depressed in Barovia lately, so it's probably not seeing the kind of activity as once did. It's also the principal location of a combat encounter that I've set up, which I'll explain here soon. But I wanted to make an important note, and this is something that I thought, this is again the genius of DM Andy putting this together when he was explaining it to me, is he has a catwalk that he put along the edge up here and in the middle. And what's cool about this catwalk, and I just want to show you for a second, is I did one-way walls. And what does that mean? It means that if you have a combat encounter in here, if you're up on the catwalk, you can see down. If you're down below the catwalk, and I'll just move it, I'll just put two of these characters in here so you can see what I'm saying, is if you're up on the top of the catwalk, you can see down below who's below you. But if you're down below the catwalk, you're not going to be able to see above you. This makes for a really interesting tactical strategic combat encounter, because if you're up on the catwalk, you can probably shoot down, hide, and jump down on players, or vice versa. So it's going to make for a very fun and interesting combat encounter. The last location on here is we actually have the home of Gunther and Yelena, who own and run both the warehouse and the stockyard. And we've got a nice bedroom in here, and we've got a really simple, there he is here, a simple general store. Now the items in here are just basic adventure items. I would keep it very limited, because really the people are going to go to the village of Vallaki, to the town squares, the streets of Vallaki. You've seen those two other guides have a lot of shops, pretty much everything you need, from the blacksmith, the Wainwright, the leather worker, potion shop, bookstores, all there. So this is kind of geared that I would imagine you might need something for a horse, or block and tackle, or a couple of adventuring gear. He's not making a lot of money here. He's making money from the warehouse and from people paying him rent to keep stuff in the stockyard. So that's the map area. So we've kind of given you the ideas of the map. So the first thing I'm going to show you here, and let me just bring this out, is just bring up the Stockyard description. There's a general description here. I've got a gorgeous picture from James RPG Art. Recommend going to his Patreon. He makes these graphics, matte paintings of Barovia. He actually makes animated ones, which work great for Theater of the Mind map. So highly recommend it. This is just a general description of the Stockyard, which you can share with the players. And then there's a link down here to the Stockyard, to D&D Beyond. So if you do own the content on D&D Beyond, you can link back and reference it right there. Makes your life a lot easier. Okay, so let's talk about this main event that I put together, and then how it ties in to Rictavio's Wagon, the Tyger special event, and then how it ties in later to the Vistani Combat encounter in the warehouse. So we're going to start out here with the event itself, and it's the murder of Yelena. So the wife of the owner has been murdered. And I'm going to give you the setup here, and then we're going to talk about the mechanics on how to run this. And I try to make it a real simple murder mystery mechanic that will be easy for you to run. Whether you're running at the tabletop or whether you're running it in Foundry, this should be a fairly simple mechanic to run. So what's happened here is I've introduced a new NPC. Yelena and Gunther has adopted a boy from the orphanage, and his nickname is Toad, and they just keep on calling him Toad. So we're going to call him Toad in here. And Toad here is about 14, 15 years old. He's a little bit slow, but a very good boy. And as the child of the owners, his job is to take care of the horses that are staying in the stables here and kind of keep a general eye out in the stockyard. It's not really active, and people can access it themselves that own their own sheds there in the stockyard. So it's kind of a way of him, being involved in the family business. So here he is right there. There's Toad. Just a nice boy. I'll zoom way in there. He's sitting at a little table. He has a little candle there and a deck of cards, and if he's not there, he's hanging out with the horses. He loves horses. So Izek one day finds Toad speaking to a Vistani right here at the front gates. I'm going to visually walk you through what happens. When Izek approaches, he sees this Vistani, and the Vistani runs. And Izek chases this Vistani, but the Vistani gets away. So they chase them across the stockyard here, and the Vistani gets away. And as Izek comes behind this woodpile, what does Izek see? Well, Isaac discovers the body of Yelena. She's murdered. She's struck in the head with some blunt force object. This is, of course, Toad's mother and Gunther's wife, the wife of the proprietor of the stockyard in the warehouse. Now, Toad is the adopted son, as I mentioned before, and it is forbidden for Vistani to be in the village of Vallaki. They are not allowed here. If the Vistani comes, they're immediately arrested. So they're not allowed in the village of Vallaki at all. Now, because Toad was obviously talking with the Vistani took off. Isaac believes that Toad had dealings with Vistani, and his mother caught Toad and the Vistani, and they killed Yelena to keep it a secret. Toad is arrested for murder. Whether Toad did the killing or not, or conspired, he's being charged with the murder, and he's going to be executed. Now, he is in the stocks now in the town square. The Burgermeister will explain, unless the players can find a suspect and prove all three things: means, did they have access to the weapon? Motive, why would they want to kill her? And did they have the opportunity? Do they not have an alibi for the night of this murder? If the players are unable to solve the murder, Toad will be hanged in the town square in 3 days' time. Now, Toad is innocent. You can figure it out. And you can see here in the journal notes, I've got a picture here of the body. Now, the way I've put this together is a simple template in the PDF form where you want to make it yourself. You just have your suspect name and 3 columns: means, motive, and opportunity. You got to check all 3 of those boxes in order to have a legitimate suspect who's the one that did it. Now, let's talk about the introduction of this murder, right? It's going to be a timed encounter, but the timing mechanism starts when you start the investigation, right? So there's several different ways you can introduce it. Here's some suggestions. This can happen when the players visit the stockyard. Right then and there, you can see Isaac running off and then discovering the body, so you could start the encounter at that moment. You can learn about this murder at the Blue Water Inn or the Blackwater Tavern. Maybe it's a rumor. Someone said, hey, do you hear about what happened up at the stockyard? The Burgermeister could tell them about it. The party could see Toad being led away by Isaac or the guards, or they could see Toad at the town square in one of the stocks and just say, hey, why is that boy up in the stocks? So there's a lot of different ways you could introduce this murder event. So what happens is, if you question, here's how it's going to start off. If you're going to question Isaac, he's going to tell you what I just told you at the beginning. By the way, the top of this section here, you can share this with the players. This is, viewable from the players. Everything below the line on all my guides are in secret. Those are the DM notes. So if they talk to Isaac, he's going to tell them what's in the top, and he's going to say, well, go talk to the Burgermeister. Isaac is satisfied that he's caught the criminal Toad. He thinks that's it. If you talk to the Burgermeister, he'll allow the players to investigate, but they must find a suspect and prove all 3. Again, means, motive, and opportunity. The Burgermeister will explain the players must first find the murder weapon, which is believed to be somewhere in the stockyard, because that's where Toad probably threw it, and question Toad and Gunther, Yelena's wife, before they're allowed to investigate and ask any of the villagers in town. The Burgermeister doesn't want to turn this into a circus, right? He wants you to say, okay, if you can find the murder weapon, in the stockyard, and you can question Toad and Gunther, and you're satisfied that you might be able to solve this, that there's more to it than we think, you're more than happy to investigate. So that's the Burgermeister's position. He doesn't want the party causing problems in the town, okay? Now, they're going to question Toad and Gunther first, and when they question Toad or Gunther, both of them confirm there are 8 suspects to this murder that had access to the stockyard, and possibly either means, motives, or opportunity. Now, here's kind of the template that I put together, and here's the rules of questioning and investigation. Each player can ask a question of a villager or NPC or suspects. They can roll only 1 insight check per answered question. So it doesn't matter which player asks the question to the NPC. If they answer the question, the group can only roll 1 insight check. Players can only intimidate an NPC only once. It's a DC 15. Now, if players continue to intimidate or threaten an NPC, a villager in Vallaki, the NPC will stop answering the questions and inform the Burgermeister, who will end the line of questioning. So I try to keep the rules succinct and easy. You can ask any questions you want. You can do one insight check. All the insight checks are always going to be a DC 12. If you fail, you can't do another one. You didn't glean anything if they're telling the truth or lying. And you can only intimidate them once. And if you pass, you can probably get something out of them. And if you don't, if you continue to harass them, they're going to shut up and tell the Burgermeister. And the Burgermeister is going to say, hey, you can investigate to stop harassing the villagers. Okay, here's the actual list of suspects, and here's the entire matrix. You're going to know as the DM who is the actual murderer. So let's go through the questioning first to show you how this works. Well, actually, let's search for the murder weapon. That's the first little mini game. So I'm going to zoom out here to the Stockyard. Here's the Stockyard. And I'm going to bring up the search for the murder weapon mini game. So there are 13 locations in the Stockyard. You've got 2 stables, that's number 1 and 8. And then you've got all these other buildings here. Here's where the body was found in the Stockyard. All these bodies. I named each of these locations. This is fluff stuff for the naming convention. If you want to expand on it a little more to your storyline, like, there's Skran Ragnar storage, he's the leather worker in town. There's the Walker family storage unit, the Burgermeister family storage unit, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to have a naming convention to give a little bit more details. Whose storage unit it is this? You have a way to answer that to them. Now here's the rules for searching for the murder weapons. The players may search the Stockyard's areas 1 through 13. To make a search, you have to make an investigation check of DC 12. Each player can only search one location once. So if a player goes to a location, they search and they fail, they can't search in that location again. But another player in their party can search in that location, right? What I want to do is just stop that kind of idiocracy of just like, we're just going to continue to search until we pass. No, player gets to search once. If they didn't do a good job searching, they can go to the next location, but another player can search that location. Now, the first player to make a successful investigation check of that location gets to roll from the search for murder weapon random table. Now there are, and I'm going to reset this, there are 13 items. 13 items. 12 of them are loot items, which the players can keep. They find some kind of loot in that location. There's no murder weapon there, but they find a piece of loot. So this is a mechanism to do 2 things. Number 1 is they know they've completed a search because they found something, right? A loot item or the murder weapon. Number 2, it gives the players a kind of, not super expensive, valuable item, but some kind of item to add in their inventory, kind of fills in a little bit of story of what people store in these storage sheds or in the stockyard, and, maybe they could sell it and make a little bit of gold. So the way this works is if the player searches a particular area, successfully investigation check DC 12, you roll from the table here, and you tell them what they find. Now, here they found a blowgun. Okay, murder weapon's not there. So if you find an item, murder weapon's not in that location. What you're going to notice in Foundry here is you want to make sure draw with replacement is turned off, so it locks it out. They're never going to find another blowgun in any other of the 12 locations. When you roll the next one, so eventually you're going to come up and you're going to get the murder weapon, right? So you're going to go each of these locations. You're going to eventually find something in that location, some chains, some bagpipes. But eventually you're going to find, and we haven't found it yet, but you're going to find, look at, we're searching everywhere. You found a war pick, a club +1. I did throw that in there. Nobody uses clubs, so I threw in a magical club with a +1. That'd be kind of fun. And a war pick, whoever uses a war pick. Okay, look at, we're searching all these locations. We haven't found it yet. Wow. So it's taking a little while for them to find it. There we go. We found the murder weapon. So let's talk about the murder weapon here. Here is the murder weapon. The murder weapon is a unique craft hammer. This is not a normal hammer. I've specifically named it a unique craft hammer, special craft hammer, a unique tool used by a craft person, a blacksmith, a woodworker, a leather worker, or other craft person. There's dried blood on the hammer. The hammer matches the blunt force trauma to the skull of the victim. So this is definitely the murder weapon. It doesn't really matter where they find it, but now they have a very important clue because this is a unique craft hammer. Not everybody's going to have it. Not all the suspects are going to have it. So now they've got their murder weapon. So let's move on to the questioning of them. Now they're going to first question Toad. Toad's going to be held up in the stocks at the town square. And if they ask what happens, he's going to say, hey, he was just talking to a man. Now remember, Toad is 14, 15 years old. He's kind of a simpleton. And he's going to say, oh, this guy was just asking me questions about the stockyard, security, maybe a place for rent, whatever. I didn't hurt my mom. You got to believe me. You want to role play him, 14, 15-year-old. He's kind of scared. He doesn't really know what's going on. He doesn't know Vistani if he met one. Even if he had Vistani tattooed on his forehead, he would be able to figure out. He's just a nice, sweet, innocent kid, taking care of the horses, loves his mother, but he is wrongly accused of this crime. If they ask him who would want her dead, he doesn't know. If there's anything special happened, he can't remember anything special happened. But he's going to name if you ask the question, who had access to the stockyard or who do you know, he's going to give you 8 names. Rictavio, the Wachter Boys, Henrik, Konik, Ernst, Horic, Skran, and Martikov. And I got to put a little bit of flavored text that he can share about each one of them. He doesn't know who would do it. He doesn't think anybody would do it. If you go and speak to the husband, he's going to pretty much tell you the same thing. He says, my son is innocent. Nobody would want to harm her. Did he see anything suspicious? There's one thing he saw suspicious. Yelena, his wife, saw Ernst speaking with somebody. She believed it was Vistani a few nights ago in the stockyard. I didn't believe her. Vistani are not allowed in Vlaki. He's also going to identify the people that have access to the stockyard. The people that could have a motive are the people that would be coming and going through the stockyard or the warehouse. So it's, again, the same 8 suspects that Toad have. So now you have your 8 suspects, right? Toad and his father have validated 8 people that use either the stockyard or the warehouse, come and go often, that both of them know. And those are the only 8 people that could have normal interactions with Yelena, who may have a possible reason for killing her. Okay, so let's talk about questioning and how that works. So I have all of the 8 people here questioned. We'll start off with Ernst here. So I put a simple matrix in here of the type of questions. It's always the same type of questions. I put up here at the top, did he have a motive? Yes. Did he have the means? No. Did he have the opportunity? Yes. So it's a yes, no, yes. Ernst didn't do it. So there are these 8 questions. I think there's 7 questions and 1 intimidation. I also have true or lie. So if you want to do an insight check, you'll know if it's true or if it's a lie. Okay, if you succeed in that. So do you think Toad's the murderer? That might be a question. So I put in some general questions. They might not, your players might not say it exactly like this, but you'll be able to infer if that's what they mean. And he'll say, no, he's a simple adopted boy by Gunther and Yelena. He had no reason to kill. That's true. What was your relationship with the deceased or the victim or Yelena? He goes, oh, I rented a small shed on the stockyard. That's true. What were you doing at the stockyard the other night? Well, if Urwin told you anything, he's lying. That's a lie. You'll find out later. Now he's identified somebody. He goes, oh, we should probably talk to Martikov. Remember, Martikov is one of the suspects. Do you have any access to a craft hammer? He goes, no, I don't use them. I don't own any craft hammers, which is true, right? He's not involved with leather working or blacksmithing or anything like that. Where were you the night of the murder? He's going to say, I went to the Blackwater Tavern, ordered a shepherd's pie, took it home, ate it, went to bed. He doesn't have an alibi because no one can confirm that he was in his house during the night of the murder. What do you think? Who do you think killed her? And he's going to name somebody. Each one person is going to identify. I think Skran killed her. Yelena didn't like him, said he was a butcher, wanted him to take his business elsewhere. That's true. Did you see anything strange? Rictavio's stranger was carrying around raw wolf steaks in the stockyard one night. He's certainly an odd fellow. That's true. Now, if you decide to intimidate him, what he'll say is, I had a private deal to purchase wine from the Vistani by Lady Walker. Yelena saw me with the Vistani in the stockyard. She says she was going to report me to Izek. So he does have a motive. Yelena saw him with Vistani. She was going to report him to Izek. He has no means because he doesn't have access to a craft hammer, but he doesn't have an alibi, so he has opportunities. So that's a yes, no, yes for him. Again, I put the rules of the questionings down below in case you forgot. Let's go to the next guy. Here's Henrik. Now, Henrik is the coffin maker. Did he have a motive? Yes. Did he have the means? Yes. But no, he did not have an opportunity because he has an alibi. He thinks the kid was a nice kid. He was shocked that she's been murdered. If you ask him, what were you doing at the stockyard the other night? He says, I was picking up supplies for my shop. That is a lie. And this ties into, when you intimidate him, into the Vistani and the vampire spawn. You'll see here in a second. Do you have access to a craft hammer? Yes, I have craft hammers because I use them for my work in making coffins. Where were you the other night? I was with Konik at his shop, helping him building a wagon, which is true. So he has an alibi. Who do you think killed her? He goes, Rictavio. Yelena complained about his wagon and the problems in the stockyard. In fact, I heard Rictavio threaten somebody in the stockyard just the other night. So Rictavio was threatening somebody in the stockyard. There's an interesting clue. Do you see anything strange? He goes, well, I saw Horic late one night rolling a barrel in the stockyard behind the woodpile. I swear he was drunk. It's strange that, huh? Now, if you intimidate him, he's going to say, the Vistani paid me some gold to create 6 coffins for some of their dead. They delivered the bodies to the stockyard. I moved them into my coffin shop. Yelena saw me moving the bodies to my shop. She said she would report me to Izek. So he has a motive. Yelena caught him moving bodies. Now, those bodies, as we know, are the vampire spawn that he's moved into his coffin shop. So there's some interesting stuff there. Let's jump down to Konik Haflinger. You're going to remember him. He is the Wainwright making wagons and wheels and selling horses. His store is in the Vallaki Square map, if you've seen that. Now, did he have a motive? Yes. And he had the means, of course, but he, again, has an alibi. He doesn't think the kid did it. He had a good relationship with the deceased. What was he doing another night? Well, he was helping a couple villagers fix their wagon, broken axle and a cracked spoke. That's a lie. You're going to find out if you intimidate him what he was lying about. Does he have access to a craft hammer? Yeah, he uses several of them for his work, making wagons and it being a Wainwright. Where were you the night of the murder? He goes, I was in my shop. Henrik, the coffin maker, was there helping me with the wagon. In fact, Raleigh, the blacksmith, also came by with some tools. So that he has 2 people there. So does Henrik that were working in the wagon maker's shop, working on a wagon. Who do you think killed it? And he goes, well, I think Martikov. Urwin was very upset, told Yelena, practically accused her that someone was stealing his wine. Now, that's a lie. I mean, you're going to find out that Urwin is concerned someone's stealing his wine, but he did not get upset and told Yelena, he practically accused her of stealing. That did not happen. So he's fibbing there. Did you see anything strange? He goes, well, I saw Ernst carrying a case of fine wine from the stockyard. I believe Barovia was running dry. I wonder how long he has been keeping that a secret. So Ernst was seen with a case of fine wine. So that's true. Now, if you intimidate him, he'll say, hey, I made a barrel wagon for the Vistani, was meeting them late at night in the stockyard. Yelena learned I was dealing with the Vistani and said she would report me to Izek. So he has a motive. He's not, you're not allowed to deal with the Vallaki Vistani. They're not even allowed in Vallaki. So there you go. So let's go to the next person here. We have Rictavio. Rictavio doesn't have a motive or the means, but he does have an opportunity. He doesn't really have a good alibi. He thinks the boy is nice. He had paid her to keep his wagon in the stockyard. What were you doing at the stockyard the other night? And he goes, I was yelling at those Wachter Boys, chased them off. They were trying to get into my wagon. Actually, that's true. I don't know why I put it in there a lie. I'll go ahead and change that right now because that is actually true. I actually made that true. So that's my mistake. Whoop. I'll put that right in there and fix it for you. On the fly. Look at that. That's service for you, right? Okay. Do you have access to a craft hammer? He goes, no, I'm an artist, a singer, and entertainer. I have no use for craft hammers. So he doesn't have means. He doesn't really have a motive. Where were you the other night? I was in my room at the Blue Water Inn enjoying a nightcap and early to bed. So he doesn't have a good alibi. He was by himself that night. Who do you think killed it? He says the Vistani. They're not to be trusted. Now, that's a lie. He doesn't know if the Vistani did it or not. But you remember, Rictavio is really Van Richten. He's out to get these Vallaki Vistani, which ties into the Tyger, which we'll talk about in a second. Do you see anything strange? He goes, yeah, Henrik and Konik have some interesting hooded friends that they often meet in the stockyard on moonless nights. He's referring to Henrik, the coffin maker, as well as Konik, the wheel maker. And we both have learned now that they've been meeting with Vistani, probably hooded figures, at night in the stockyard. One was to get the bodies moving into the coffin maker shop to make the coffins. That was Vistani delivering the vampire spawn. And the other one was Konik, who made the barrel wagon to sell to the Vistani. Do you see anything? Okay, in intimidation, if you do try to intimidate him, he's like, hey, I'm not here to cause trouble with the town folk. I take issue with Vistani. I have my own personal reasons. I don't think the Vistani actually killed her, but I do think they were part of the cause, which is true. So the only thing he's lying about is who killed it. He's got this vengeful hate for the Vistani. Okay, so let's go to Skran. Now, Skran is the guy that is the leather maker in town. There's a whole really cool, interesting backstory that ties him into the wolf den. if you look at that video guide. So did he have a motive? No, he had no reason, but he did have the means. He does use a craft hammer, but he didn't have an alibi. He has an alibi, so he had no opportunity. He doesn't wish to think the boy did it, but he says the boy was a few teeth shy of a proper wolf trap. So he's saying in his own way the boy was a little bit of a dimwit. What was your relationship? And he fairly shares with her, she didn't care for our business trading in wolf hides. She was an animal lover. She told me she wished for me to take my business elsewhere. What were you doing at the stockyard? I went to gather some items in storage. However, I did not get into the stockyard. I saw Konik with 3 hooded, nefarious-looking people huddling around a wagon. So he's identifying what Konik will say if he's intimidated, that he's dealing with Vistani. Do you have access to a craft hammer? He goes, yes, I use several different craft hammers in my trade as a leather worker. Where were you the other night? He goes, I stopped by this blacksmith, but Raleigh and Horic, okay, Horic is the apprentice to the blacksmith, and Raleigh is the blacksmith, were not there. So I headed home, had dinner with Zella, and then went to bed early. So he has an alibi. But what's interesting to note here is each one of the things are an interesting clue is Raleigh and Horic weren't there. We already know Raleigh left the blacksmith to go help Henrik and Konik working on the wagon, but Horic is not there either. There was no one at the blacksmith. He stopped by to pick up something, and nobody was there. Who do you think killed Yelena? He says Horic Ginch. I saw him late one night rolling a barrel out of the warehouse. He must have woke up Yelena because she gave him an earful. She was yelling at him. He huffed a little and then left, and then I saw Yelena roll the barrel right back into the warehouse. This is the second time that Horic was seen with a barrel. One time he's seen with a barrel behind the woodpile, which is interesting because behind the woodpile is where the body was found. And here's the second time he was rolling the barrel out of the warehouse, which is interesting. You're going to see how this all fits together. Did you see anything strange? Well, there was a brand new barrel wagon one night in the stockyard. It looked like a Vistani wagon, then it was gone the next morning. This ties in to the whole thing with Konik and huddling around the barrel wagon and the Vistani and everything. So that's it. Now, if you intimidate him, because I have little interest in anything going on in this town. I used to hunt wolves. Now I tan their hides, want no part of the problems in this town. He just doesn't want anything to do with any of this stuff. Remember, he's got his own secret about his daughter in the wolf den, so he's trying to stay out of everybody's business. Okay, so that's Skran for you. Let's talk about Urwin Martikov. He has no motive, no means, and no opportunity. He thinks the boy's a good boy. He had our wine delivered to the warehouse, would meet her once a week to check on shipments. She was a nice woman, a good businesswoman. What was he doing there? He was checking on his wine shipments. Several barrels had gone missing. So now you're going to learn that barrels of wine in the warehouse are missing. Remember, Horic was caught with a barrel of wine twice by 2 different people, one behind the woodpile, one trying to rolling it out of the warehouse. Do you have access to a craft room? He goes, no, I own a tavern. I have no need for crafting tools. Where were you that night? I was cooking at a Blue Water Inn for our guests. Everybody can validate that, so he has an alibi. Who do you think killed her? He goes, I think Ernst. Yellow told me he had some dealings with Vistani. She said he was rather threatening about the matter. So obviously she shared with him about Ernst and the Vistani. Do you see anything strange? He goes, I overheard Horic speaking with somebody at the Blue Water Inn. Seems like he has some serious debt issues with the Vistani. Owing the Vistani is not a good thing. Now, if you intimidate him, because I don't want to have anything more to say about the matter, there's been some theft of our wine. That is all I wish to get to the bottom of. So that's it for Urwin Martikov. We've got 2 more people left. We've got the Wachter Boys, okay? Wachter Boys don't have any means, motive, or opportunity. Ironically, they're kind of rude, snotty kids of Lady Wachter. They're always in trouble and drinking, but they don't really have a motive, means, or opportunity to do this. If they think, do you think Toad was murdered? He goes, yeah, he's a stupid liar. He hated his mother and his dad. I mean, they're going to lie about everything. What was your relationship with her? She is too old to have a relationship. That old witch, she's mad and crazy. Would not be seen with her. They're just arrogant kids, right? Or arrogant young men, drunken trust fund kids, right? Where were you that during the stockyard the other night? That stranger Rictavio kept something in that wagon. We want to see it for ourselves. Then he came and started yelling and chasing us. He's crazy. That's true. They were there at the stockyard. This plays into the Rictavio with the kids, the Wachter Boys trying to get into the wagon, letting that Tyger loose, right? Do you have access to a craft hammer? And they say, the only hammer we use is a tankard to hammer down more ale at the Blue Water Inn. Where were you the night of the murder? He goes, we were hammering ale at the Blue Water Inn. Where else would we be? Who do you think killed Yelena? He goes, Toad. Who else did it? Did you see anything strange? He goes, we saw old Vanderfart with some strange hooded figures late one night. Swear they were moving some bodies. Scary old man. They called Vandervoot, Henrik Vandervoot, old Vanderfart, because we're just kind of nasty kids. If they do intimidate him, they go, look, we don't want any problems. Toad probably did not do it. Yeah, he's just too stupid to. They think he's dumb and dim-witted. We never gave the old lady any problems. Our mom keeps our horses here, and we come here to get drunk sometimes in the stockyard, I swear, which is all true. So that leads us with the last person, who is actually the murderer. It's Horic, and you're going to find out, obviously, clues. He owes money to the Vistani. He's been robbing the warehouse of wine for the Vistani. Yelena caught him, and he was going to turn him over to Izek, but Horic hit her with a hammer and killed her accidentally. So if he asks about Toad, the murderer, he goes, probably a strange kid, was always sneaking around. That's a lie. He's going to continue to lie because he is the murderer. What was your relationship with her? And never had a problem. Who would want to kill her? Obviously, if you roll, you're going to realize he's lying. Where were you doing at the stockyard the other night? I was picking up some stuff from the warehouse. I accidentally woke up Yelena. She seemed a little upset. Really, she was upset because he was rolling out that barrel of wine. She's yelling at him, told her to get out of here, and she put it back. She's probably threatened him to say, I was going to turn you over to Izek. Do you have access to a crafting hammer? Yes, he does. He works with the blacksmith. Where were you the other night? I was with the blacksmith. I was with Raleigh working late into the night. Now, we know that's a lie because Skran had gone to the blacksmith and said Raleigh and Horic weren't there. And we know that Konik and Henrik mentioned that Raleigh the blacksmith was there helping them fixing or building a wagon in his shop. So he's totally lying. He has no alibi. Who do you think killed her? Now he blames the Wachter Boys. They threatened to kill her after she yelled at them for sneaking around the stockyard. It's a lie. They never threatened to kill her. Do you see anything strange? Well, there's something going on in the Blue Water Inn. Several of those Martikovs have arrived now. The stranger Rictavio staying there. Something's not right. That's true. That's pretty much the only thing true that he says, other than he works at the blacksmith and has a hammer. If you intimidate him, he goes, look, I owed the Vistani some gold. I was unable to pay them. They said if I stole some wine from the warehouse, I could pay off the debt. I just needed to roll it down behind the wood pile in the stockyard, leave it there. Yelena caught me rolling the barrel out of the warehouse the other night. I told her I would never do it again. Now, if you confront him with the motive, means, and opportunity, you know the truth, because you have Skran, Henrik Vandervoot, the Martikov witness, the hammer. Raleigh was with Konik. Nobody was there. Skran went by. He'll just admit that she surprised him. He freaked out. He didn't want to get in trouble. He was scared of the Vistani would probably do something to him. He hit her in the head with a hammer. Didn't mean to kill her, but he is the killer. So there you have it. That is the entire murder quest. You can bring the murder weapon and Horic Ginch to the Burgermeister as the murderer to that entire situation. So let's go ahead and talk about Rictavio's carnival wagon now, and then we'll do the final combat event. So Rictavio's wagon's right here, and it's a large barrel wagon, sits in the stockyard, huge chain over the locked back door, and it seems kind of odd. There's a description, I'll bring you from shadow into light, and you hear some strange scratching coming from the wagon. Now, he keeps his saber-toothed tiger dressed in armor in the wagon. It seems pretty well behaved, but it is deadly. Rictavio is planning to release this on the Vistani camp just outside of Vlaki after learning they are in league with Strahd. And he's been feeding this saber-toothed tiger wolf steaks. Now, the tiger will not attack anyone unless it's Vlaki Vistani, and he's been slowly training it. See, Rictavio snuck into the Vistani camp, stole some clothes, took the clothes to Blinsky to have a magical Blinsky doll made to look like Vistani, and he's been using this Blinsky doll to train the tiger to attack and kill only Vlaki Vistani. So the doll has some magic in it, has the scent with the Vistani clothing in it, so that saber-toothed tiger is ready to kill, but it's only going to attack and kill the Vistani Vlaki, the bad Vlaki who are in league with Strahd. Now, in exchange, they can find the doll in there that's torn up with a no fun, no Blinsky tag on it. Rictavio, in exchange, gave his pet monkey Piccolo to Blinsky. Piccolo seems to like Blinsky. So that's the relationship that Blinsky is going to have with Rictavio. Now, if the Tyger is released, it will not attack anyone except a Vallaki Vistani, which is important because that's going to lead in to our combat encounter. This is how you could bring Tyger out with the Wachter Boys releasing the Tyger, or players releasing the Tyger. And instead of the Tyger running through the village of Vallaki, I have an entire combat encounter set up with Vistani Vallaki. So this is pretty cool. If it's attacked, however, it will attack and kill viciously anyone that tries to attack it. And I also put in here in the front seat, if they do an inspection check, this is all the stuff that they're going to find in the wagon. I have some, and I made all of these are items. They're loot items that you can actually give to your players. So we got the Vistani coin here. They find 50 of those. We have the healer's kit. We have the silver holy symbols right here. We have the silvered short sword. The hand crossbow with the mother of pearl, it's worth 250 gold. Silver crossbow bolts. The leather case with the gold buckle. We have the sharp wooden stakes. Garlic. There's some garlic there. I'm going to probably have to make some for dinner and put some garlic in it. There's some salt. We have the holy flasks, the water flasks, the steel mirror, and we've got 2 scrolls, the protection from fiends and the protection from undead. Those are all things that they would find under the front bench of the wagon. So that's right here. You got a nice, again, this picture here, and you got the wagon here. We got the saber-tooth tiger right here, his Tyger. I have him invisible. You can bring him out, and there he is. Just left him over here on the side. This wagon can move around. This, again, another great asset that was made by our great DM, Andy, who makes these maps. So let's talk about this combat encounter up here, and I'm going to just turn on all these combatants up here and talk about, because this ties into everything. It ties into the murder mystery. Remember, Horic is in debt to the Vistani, and he can't pay off the debt, and the Vistani say, hey, rob some of the wine out of there so we can sell it. This also ties into the Tyger and the Blinsky doll and Rictavio, because these are Vistani from the Vallaki camp, the bad Vistani. So let's talk about the Vistani at the warehouse. Now, we've got a new character here that I created, Zentori. He's a minor leader of the Vallaki Vistani. He's allies with Strahd. He reports directly to Rahadin. He attempts to steal, extort, and threaten anyone for money. Horic owes Vistani money, and Horic was unable to pay. So Zentori saw an opportunity to gain secret interests into Vallaki, knowing the Vistani are never allowed into the village. So he convinced Horic that the debt would be forgiven if he could sneak the Zentori into the village and steal some wine. So Horic helped the Vistani get into the village of Vallaki, and then Horic started stealing the wine. Now, once Zentori was able to gain entrance into the village, he helped deliver the bodies, the vampire spawn, to Henrik Vandervoot as a favor to Rahadin and to Strahd. So these are the Vistani, and this is Zentori, who's dealing with Henrik Vandervoot with the vampire spawn. He's also dealing with Konik, buying the wagon from Konik, and he's also the leader in the Vistani group that's dealing with extorting Horic Ginch. Now, Zentori had Horic steal a barrel of wine from each shipment from the warehouse and leave it behind the woodpile in the stockyard. So what would happen here is Horic would steal one of these, he would roll it down the hill through this doorway over here and leave it behind the woodpile. So you can see he's rolling it right by the house. So one night, Yelena came by and she saw him rolling this barrel behind here, and he hit her in the head. That's why her body's found where he hid the barrels of wine. The first time she caught him up here, tried to roll out some wine out here, and she kicked him out. And the second time she busted him, he killed her. Now, Zentori then sold the wine to Ernst and made a nice profit out of it without ever having to move the wine. Ernst would move the wine from behind the woodpile, right over here. We got the woodpile right over here, and he would move it over here. You can see this is Ernst. You can see all the barrels of wine in here, and there's some actual empty bottles. Ernst would roll the wine barrel in here, and then he would siphon the wine out of the barrels into bottles, taking it to Lady Wachter. Remember, he admits that if he's intimidated and then somebody else saw him with that case of nice wine. So he would move the wine behind. Now, Zentori was very proud of this deal because he didn't have to lift a finger. He was making money. He had Horic stealing the barrels of wine, leaving it behind the wood pile. Then Zentori would meet with Ernst saying, hey, I got you the wine. And then Ernst would have to wheel the wine barrel from behind the wood pile to his shed and then bottle it up. Zentori didn't have to do anything. He was really proud of this little deal he concocted. He's just making some free money. Now, Zentori had learned there was far more wine and other goods in this warehouse, and he was going to sneak in. He's already able to get into Vallaki. He's going to come in there and rob this warehouse blind. So that's how this is going to start, right? So he's going to show up, and Zentori here is a bandit leader. He's got a short sword dagger. He has multi-attack and leather armor. So he's 65 hit points. All the other Vistani in here are just normal bandits with short swords and light crossbows. So introducing the players to the break-in, there are several options you can do. The players can stumble upon the Vistani during their investigation. Maybe this happens while they're investigating, one of the night of the investigations. They could receive a warning maybe from Rictavio or somebody else. You remember Rictavio is after the Vistani. Maybe Rictavio runs into them investigating the wagon. He said, look, it's these Vistani in Vallaki that are really bad. And he goes, I think they're planning something. They've been seen now with Konik, the Wainwright, and with Henrik, the coffin maker. There's something going on. They're getting into the stockyard somehow. Or it could be a clue that leads them to the warehouse. Maybe we should investigate the warehouse. You know, Horic was seen there rolling barrels of wine out, or rolling barrels out, or maybe Martikov says, our wine's missing. Please go investigate the warehouse. So there's several ways to lead into this encounter. Now the approach, it's gonna happen at night. Obviously, players will see this. The first thing the players are going to see, because the whole place is shut down. I'm going to shut this down really quick. The players are going to see this over here. Where's the horse? There's the horse. Okay, the players are going to see. Let me turn him on. This over here. This horse and this Vistani. They're outside of the warehouse. Remember, the wagon goes underneath the warehouse. They lower goods into the wagon. And there's a horse and cart here. These are assets that you can move. You can just take all of these here and just, move them around. There they are. So the players are going to see this hooded figure sitting in this wagon with a horse in the middle of the night under the warehouse, under the elevated part next to the cliff under the warehouse. Now, there are 6 Vistani in the warehouse stealing goods and lowering them in the wagon below. And Zentori, the Vistani leader, is in there. And shite, I misspelled his name there. I got to put the T in there. I got to remember to do that. I'll double check before I ship this out. So my apologies there. So when the players get in here, and I'm just going to drag a token in here so you can see. There's Rictavio's Tyger. Let's just drag in. I'll just drag in Toad in here. Okay. So Toad's in here, and this is what I was talking about earlier. This is going to be. The Vistani, remember, are bandits. They got 11 hit points. They're not really super tough. But what's going to make this a difficult combat encounter is the tactical situation inside this warehouse. Now, this warehouse's roof is probably about 25 to 30 feet tall. And you've got, on both sides of the warehouse, you have this catwalk, right? So you have 4 ladders leading up to this catwalk, which I imagine is about 15 feet up, and there's some boxes and some other things along this catwalk. You also have 2 catwalks in the center of the room, right, with ladders going up. You can see those here. You have the door here that's locked. You have the 2 back swinging doors where people can load stuff up. And then you have this area that opens up with the small crane that drops down a good 20 feet down to this wagon where they can lower goods. And that's what the Vistani are doing. They're robbing this warehouse blind. They're going to load up this cart and they're going to ride out of town. And the leader here, and let me just fix him here. I don't know why I don't have him, Zentori. I keep on forgetting the T. I apologize. Let me put him back in here. There he is, Zentori. I just fixed this. You're not going to have to worry about it. I got it all done. Okay. Zentori is in here, and he's the main bad dude. So when the players come in, if they come in through this way, they're going to see Zentori and one of the Vistani. But they're not going to see the other Vistani. See, Toad can't see anybody. So your players won't see anybody because they're up on the catwalk. But the Vistani up on the catwalk can see you. They're up at top on the catwalk. They can look down and see. You can't see them, but they can see you. So this is going to be a great way for the Vistani to sniper fire down with their crossbows at you, or jump down on top one of your players. Your players are not going to have any idea how many Vistani in here. They're going to only see two. They're going to see the main guy, and they're going to see one other Vistani. The rest of them are up on these catwalks. Let's just walk around on here. I'll just show you how this map looks, how he did these walls. So they can climb up here. Let me just close that. They can climb up here and get up onto the catwalk. As soon as they get in the catwalk, they can see down, right? Okay, and here's the other catwalk. If they climb up this one, they're going to see the Vistani up here right away, right? Same thing with these big catwalks at the end. If they climb up to the top of the catwalk, they can see down across, and there's a Vistani up here. There's two Vistanis up here. And if you go all the way around, they're going to see another Vistani. And again, there's another Vistani up on this catwalk up here. Okay? So it's going to be really hard for them to see the Vistani. And it's, it's kind of lit in here. I got the lighting going on. But it's not super well lit. This is at the middle of the night. They've lit just what they need to light so they can start stealing the stuff. If you look at the walls in here, you can see how I did the one-way walls to create these catwalks in here. I'm using some of the invisible walls so that you can't see too far, and there's some things and items blocking some visibility here. So I've had that set up. Let's go back into the combat encounter and talk a little bit more about this. So what's going to happen is in the engagement, Centauri will order the Vistani to attack and also attempt to load what he can into the wagon below and escape if he's able to steal enough. He'll not hesitate to leave some of the Vistani behind. He thinks he can get away. If he thinks he can get away with the wagon full of goods. He's extremely greedy, and he's a ruthless opportunist. Now, if he's cornered, he will attempt to trick, lie, and cheat. In addition, he will curse the players as well as the other Vistanis. Remember, use those Vistani curses. There's going to be, I'll put some of the text in here so you can see what those Vistani curses are. Now, at the end of round 4, what will happen is 4 town guards will enter. And the guards are going to come in through these doors up here. Okay? Now, the thing about the town guards, they think you're all in it together, right? So the town guards come in, and they're going to start attacking you, the players, and the Vistani. They don't care. And it doesn't matter what you try to say. Hey, we caught them robbing. They're going to say, well, then what? You should have come to us. Just drop your weapons. There's going to be zero convincing these town guards. Now, the town guards will attack both Vistani and the players. Now, in this chaos, Centauri is going to realize, well, shit, this is a great time for me to escape. I've got the town guards now attacking the players as well. I'll just grab my stuff and get out of here. So the players are going to be dealing with the town guards and the Vistani. The town guards are going to be attacking both the Vistani and the players, and the Vistani are going to try to make their escape. This is going to happen at the end of round 4 as these guards come in here. Now, what's great about this encounter, if you release this saber-toothed tiger, who's going to just hunt down and eat Vistani, the Vlaki Vistani, and throw that in the mix, you can have, an epic, chaotic shit show in the warehouse, in the area surrounding the warehouse here. I'll just show you a couple other things. I have some contour lines. There's a cliff here, as you can see. You've got the wagon. So you could really have a really great time with this Vistani in the warehouse. And that's how I kind of had tied up the entire Tiger event, is I think it would be play really well into this warehouse scene. You've got some combat, you got the Vistani in there, you got the Tiger to hunt the Vistani, you got them trying to steal stuff, you got a murder mystery, tying all this stuff together. So that's it for the Stockyard in Vallaki. This was really fun. I really enjoyed putting this murder mystery together, as well as the combat encounter with the new Vistani in there. I hope you really enjoyed this. If you do, please like and subscribe. Liking on my YouTube video helps to get it out there to other people that are interested in Curse of Strahd. And then again, thank you again to DM Andy, and huge thanks to all my Patreon members that continue to support me, leaving really great comments and great ideas and suggestions to really make me flush this entire Curse of Strahd out. Hey, until next time, may all your rolls be critically successful. I hope you're enjoying Curse of Strahd as much as I am. This is Parm King, signing off.